Welcome to the Rise to Thrive podcast. Rise to Thrive is your real talk resource to elevate your life and business through growth, wellness, and manifestation. With your co-host, Linda Tate, financial advisor turned life and wealth strategist, founder of Lila Life, and self-named Nordic shaman, and Amelia Travis, yoga teacher turned multi-six-figure business coach, founder of Stoked Yogi, and spiritual warrior. We're here to help you level up and create the life you imagine, sharing inspiration and strategy to elevate vibes and consciousness so you can rise to your best self and thrive as your best self. Tune in weekly to Thrive Daily. Tuning in now. Welcome, Rise to Thrivers, to episode 33, Closure Not Closure, How to Break Up Nicely, with your co-hosts, Linda Tate and Amelia Travis. Welcome, Amelia, to today's show.
Thank you so much. It really is good to be back.
Yes, it is good to be here. And we have a celebration moment right now. You want to share our celebration?
I do. So you guys, if you've been listening for a while, you know that when we talked about communication, when we've talked about healthy relationships on this show, one of the things that I've shared is that in the past, I have struggled with how to let go of partnerships or friendships or relationships that were no longer in alignment. And when Linda and I started this show, I had reservations about entering into a partnership, because in the past, business partnerships, creative partnerships have not always ended well for me. And in fact, they've been frequently opportunities for me to relive an old story, which is that of myself as a bridge burner, right? When things don't
remember the gasoline story, everyone?
Yeah, me standing at the edge of the rope bridge with my gas can and my flamethrower, like I'm ready to burn this shit to the ground. And so one of my biggest fears in doing this show was that I might come to a point where I wanted to have a solo show, or because of the evolution of my business, or just my creative endeavors, that I wanted to go my own way. But in partnering with one of my very best friends in the world, I knew that if we did come to the point that I wanted to go my own way, that I would have to learn how to break up nicely, right? And how to let go of something that felt like, it had been a really, really beautiful experience, but was maybe no longer the experience that I wanted to have, and how to do that without losing a friendship. And I'm going to cry probably, but I'm happy to say that as much as we have loved Rise to Thrive as a show and as a partner effort, I am feeling the call to go towards a solo show. And to our knowledge, this will be the last episode that we record together of Rise to Thrive podcast. I have set down my gas can. I put my flamethrower in the closet, and I
stared at you at the other side of the bridge with a smile.
She did, and she said, "You don't need to burn this bridge. We could just leave it here in case we want to go across it again someday. It would be silly to burn it, because then we'd have to build a new one." And I was like, "You're right. That sounds like a lot of work. We've already built a beautiful bridge. Let's just reinforce the bridge instead of burning it down." So we want to share this experience with you guys today, because I think there's a lot for people to learn in this, what we've learned in podcasting as a team, what it looks like to let go of something that's amazing and wonderful when maybe you don't even know what it is that's coming next, but your intuition is calling you to release that. When you're committed to a friendship and it's involved in a business partnership, how do you let go of the business partnership but preserve the friendship? So we want to just really share an open dialogue about those questions with you guys today, and also share with you what's coming next for both of us.
It's exciting.
It's exciting. And I mean, if we're being totally honest, it's also a little bit sad. It's a little bit bittersweet. And so, I think one of the first things that we want to share is, right now, we are pretty sure this is the last episode of this.
But if you see another one in 4 months, surprise again.
Yeah, you never know what is going to happen. So I think it would be appropriate to share
how we got here.
Yeah. How did we get here?
Well, a few weeks ago. No, I think this was a gradual from early on. I mean, it was like you said, a concern of if you were feeling that pull, and there was a lot of fears along the way of feeling like I don't want to abandon or leave or reject you in this process. And being partners on this project, I knew that that was always like a quote unquote risk, and felt compelled to go through the process, whatever that would mean. And for me too, being able to step into the risks involved, but with like an open heart and mind to what could unfold and evolve, and to sit here with 33 episodes and be going our own ways still feels like a pretty amazing accomplishment that I feel really proud of, and what we've built over this time together. But knowing that there were little pings along the way, and I feel like for the most part, you were pretty open and honest when they were hitting you the hardest. And, I knew, and I never wanted this to feel like captive for you and for either of us, right? And to be able to creatively express ourselves in whatever way that meant, which led us to our conversation most recently.
Yeah. So I think, one of the things that I want to share about what was challenging in working as a team on a podcast, because I've talked to some clients and I've talked to some friends, people who are excited about the idea of podcasting. And they've said, I really hope that I can find a partner for mine. So one thing is like, yes, it's awesome, especially if you love the person, if they make you laugh. Like Linda, you're one of the funniest people that I know. So being able to have dedicated time to connect with you and laugh with you was like such a huge blessing. On the logistical level, if you've got two people who are self-employed and have outside lives, as we all do, whether that's a family, taking care of your home, dealing with travel, a dog, right? And then between those two people, you're also trying to bring in a third party for interviews. It can get really complicated just in terms of like actually
like logistics.
Creating the time. Yeah, like schedule, like creating a time for your schedules to align. If one person has a last minute emergency and they're bailing, it messes with the other person's schedule. I'm talking about myself.
And we're also on, different time zones.
Yeah. So what was all along a fun project also kept finding these hiccups of like it just being challenging to execute it in excellence and not find myself or you frustrated about things that needed to change. So that was part of it. The other part of it was from a creative standpoint, one of the things that I realized is that I want to be able to have full creative autonomy. So if I have those moments where like, for example, this past weekend, I had a really amazing, insane's not the right word, an amazing, powerful experience of psychedelic induced meditation that brought me to an experience of healing around my wound of sexual violence. Well, showing up on a show and talking about how I did a bunch of mushrooms in the desert and then went into a 5D and basically witnessed the wound of all of my past lives and this life. Actually, you probably would have been totally down with that topic, but
like we just went there.
Yep, that just happened. But being able to show up and share without consulting with a partner is something that I felt really called to. So even though I have the greatest partner ever, there is also the desire to have complete creative autonomy. And so we had a couple conversations over 6 months of like addressing these things and then finding workarounds and then them bubbling up again. And I think
too, for me, I think the one that is a little different, but like I felt really wanting to know, like, are we doing this for real? And like have that really clearly lined out and defined, whatever that meant, more from like a business, practical, like legally standpoint. And one piece of advice that I got through this process is like, what's so amazing about a partnership agreement is if you both can't get to that point, it's a sign. And I think that's really like simple, basic, awesome advice, because if that's not feeling easy, like there's a reason and that's okay. And there's information there.
Yes, I think that's really true, because we had a lot of conversations about how to potentially legally structure and yet didn't get there. And I think a lot of that was just a fear response from my side of feeling like I'm not sure that I want to be in a marriage, you know what I mean? Which is what a business partnership essentially is. It's getting married. And you would be an amazing wife.
Yeah. Ring on it.
I know. So I think it begs the question of like, how do you live in integrity and follow your intuition to release something that no longer feels aligned, but do it in a way that's kind and timely and courageous? And that was what I needed to learn in this. And I'm really thankful to have had you as a partner, because you're a really great teacher in that. You actually gave the grace to allow me to tell the truth about feeling like I needed to go my own way. And by the way, you guys, when I told her, I was like sobbing my face off. Like I was just like crying, because I have this track record of like, of trauma, really, of it not being okay to want what I want, of feeling guilt and shame around wanting to go my own way, right? And we all carry like certain stories with us. And one of my stories is, if I don't want to work with you anymore, you're not going to want to be my friend anymore, right? And so I was very afraid that if I let go of the work partnership, that you would be like, well, fuck you, and like, I'm dumping you, right?
Yeah.
She didn't do that, you guys. We're still here. So can I ask you, like, how were you able to hold the grace and the love even in a time of hurt? Because it probably hurt your feelings when I was like, I don't want to do this as a partnership anymore. I do still want to podcast, and I want to podcast by myself. Like, that's a hurtful thing.
Yeah.
How were you able to handle that?
Well, number one, it's like from the beginning, like there was always the possibility that that could happen. And for either of us, like I remember one of our first conversations when you said it, and I was like, well, I want to feel like I have the space also to go my own way if I'm feeling that. So I remember in that moment within myself, like really connecting with, of course I would give that grace. Like I would want that for myself. And that was really early on. I mean, I think that was the first time that you had ever brought that fear up. Like I made that active decision, and really in my mind, like wanting to be able to grow and learn and be in this experience with you. And, you know, we had created some amazing like plans and ideas for growth strategy, and that would feel really exciting. But trusting that if that were the way things would go, that would be obvious. And it became obvious that things needed to part ways. And so I guess ultimately, like the feeling of support and trust for myself, like on a more spiritual sense, I just really leaned into that. And it's like, if you're feeling that call to want to split, that I don't need to grip onto or hold on to that, like it's gone, you know, and that can be done with love. And so I laugh because in the same moment when I got engaged and I didn't know I was getting engaged, like in the same moment you're, you know, trying to communicate the breakup and I'm not fully getting it. It took a few minutes, but you know, I do love you, Amelia, and I wouldn't have gone on this experience if I didn't feel that way. And I think also the commitment to each other of our friendship being intact, no matter the outcome of this, and I do refer to it as a project, right? As a project. And I don't know, staying like pretty grounded in that throughout. And there were definitely tough moments, and there were anger moments, and there were bummed moments. I mean, it was like a full spectrum of processing. And I had a similar experience where it was like, you know, we're both in integrity with our communication about this. And that doesn't mean that this needs to be a goodbye forever. And that being okay, you know, and like not letting ego get in the way and being like, yeah, you're right, fuck you. Like, no, it's okay. And to be
It was close though.
there was a few close calls of that. No, but it that in so many ways felt like really healing. And I think through this process, like I found like my voice in deeper ways, and you know, had to really look at the experience from my side of it and understand where there are growth opportunities for me too, and understand like, oh, I do love this, and look forward with excitement and anticipation. So it was like a lot of excitement and healing and pain and love and frustration all at the same time.
So I'm comfortable with you, like, just playing full out, tell the full truth. So like, what do you think are some of those growth opportunities that you learned through the process?
Well, one of them is like, I definitely think sometimes we're both strong personalities. And one of the ways that I am with another strong personality is to like be more submissive. Like it's easier for me to step back than to go head to head with a stronger personality. And that's something that I've kind of always been. I don't know where that came from, but to not feel afraid to lose my voice within that. And I think sometimes, like, looking back, are just kind of like, oh, sort of sit back. And in the past month, even, I feel like my throat chakra opened up more.
Well, that's good.
That's one. And another is, like I said, the partnership agreement. Like, I don't think that I would have done anything differently. Like, even if I could do this all over again and we didn't have a partnership agreement in month one, I wouldn't have done things much differently, but I would have understood, like, within the reality of that maybe like the splitting would be sooner than later because we weren't taking those next steps, and just to be able to adjust that. And I think that's where some frustrations came, where you were definitely going like full bore, wanting to like operate, go, everything. And I felt uncomfortable putting in that time and energy until things were more clear within a partnership. And I think that's where some of the things became more evident of going in different ways.
Yeah. And I think you can use like any kind of relationship as kind of a model that aligns with this. Like, what I experienced was, from the very beginning, like, I wanted to do a podcast. I mean, that's how this even arose, is I was like, I had wanted to do a podcast. You had wanted to do a podcast. And then you're like, hey, what if we did a podcast together? Well, one of the things that I've learned about myself through this experience and through other experiences is that I do find it easier to jump into something that maybe feels new or scary, holding hands with a friend, right? But then once I land in the pool, I'm like, I don't want to hold your hand anymore. Like,
Get off me, I'm
I want
good.
to swim by myself, And so I think one of the things for me to learn is like really considering, how fair is that if I have that intuition in the beginning? And I'm with you, I wouldn't actually do anything differently. Not only did we have an insane amount of fun, we recorded some really powerful content, we learned a lot. And even going forward, like, I'll be fully honest, like, there's parts of me that are like, what if I'm going to put it in quotes, like, what if I'm wrong? You know what I mean? What if I do actually want to continue doing this as a team? I just think I want to do it alone, but I haven't really tried that yet. So like, who knows? We might get there. I'll be like, I don't like this either.
You miss me.
Right? I mean, so it's like listening to that intuition from the beginning, and perhaps doing things a little bit differently, by which I mean like communicating from the very beginning. My intuition is saying this might be a 6 to 9 month project or a 1-year project. And then at that time, I feel pretty sure that I'm going to want to go my own way. Does that feel like something that you want to do? And having a little bit more clarity around it. The other thing is, like, when you're in the excitement around something, I mean, we had conversations where, like, I said explicitly, hey, if we do decide to go our own ways, like, neither one of us will use Rise to Thrive as a concept. It's something we created together, built together. But then at the point at which I actually wanted to leave, the fear came through, and I'm like, but I love this name and I love this concept, and we've poured so much into it, and it feels like a waste for neither party to use it, to keep it, to have it, right? And so that was really hard, because that was like feeling like we both gave so much to something, and then to allow that effort to just rest and to not continue to be created, but to really just respect the container of what we built together, and each go our own ways into our own respective shows, new and different. That was really hard for me. That felt like like that made me angry. Like I was really, really, really angry. And so it was an opportunity to witness, like, why are you angry? Right. And it's like, then it was being able to see the ways in which I perhaps had tried to dominate the relationship by either investing more or making decisions that weren't maybe fully in partnership, right? And being, like you said, being a strong personality, and like where you might lean back and be submissive, I would lean in and be more dominant and like make decisions that maybe weren't like really fully in consideration of you. So I think if you're listening to this and you're like either, you know, wondering how can you let go of a business partnership but keep it positive and kind, or how can you let go of a love relationship that's not serving you but preserve the friendship? Like, you know, you guys, I'm new at this. This is the first time I've ever done it. So I'm not sure I can speak with a ton of expertise, but I would say like the pillars of that is like, you know, the 3 pillars that I live my life by, I'm actually being called to operate in. And that is show up, you know, by which I mean, like, don't hide from the person, because in my past, it would have been like, just ignore them or ghost them, or like, don't address it. You know what I mean? Which isn't really an option here. But
Come into your house.
Yeah. Show up, love people. So like that in this was a really conscious thing. It was like, I know I love you. I know we have a friendship, but how do I maintain that when I'm frustrated, angry, or like I want what I want and, you know, I turn into like a brat, right? Like how do I like stay in love when I want to just be a fucking brat? Because that's one of my defense mechanisms. And then 3 is tell the truth. And that was the hardest part, and the part where I just really had to trust that you were prioritizing our friendship, was for me to be able to show up and say, listen, I love you and I'm thankful for this, and it's not what I want anymore. And can we figure it out? And, you know, thankfully you were willing to work with me in that. What do you think were some of your guiding principles of how to navigate a breakup nicely?
Definitely, I was breathing. There were sort of like signs. It was getting a little bit like the scheduling was a little bit spottier than usual. And there was just that my intuition, like the day before we were like in communication, like that week I had said to one friend, I said, something's happening with the podcast. And the day before I was like, I think we're breaking up the podcast. So it was like, I was already receiving those messages. And so tremendous amount of trust, but like in myself, in spirit, in you, in the process. And so that helped me tremendously. And like the ability to find solutions. Like one of the things I love more than anything is solutions and like problem solving and strategy. And it was like, I knew that there could be an outcome that could feel good or even good enough for both of us. And like being unwilling to land until we could land there. And to be in integrity, you know, there was stuff like the money stuff that we could make sure could feel really good. And neither of us were like ripping each other off. And that was really important to me, was that we ended in integrity with each other kind of on all levels. And so those were mine.
Nice. Listen, we know you guys love hearing us together because we're just the funnest and the most amazing. And so we're excited to share that we are both going forward and we'll be producing independent shows on which we will be featuring each other periodically as we have inclination to get the band back together. Yeah.
The band reunion.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, even though it's maybe not fully fleshed out yet, you know, your brand is Lila Life.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear a little bit about the pillars of Lila Life and where you think you might be going creatively with the Lila Life show, your upcoming podcast.
Yeah. So Lila Life, this was born, I had a brand many years ago called Vitamin Linda, and my name's Linda, as you know. And the L though is a play on the word love, and Vitamin L was copyrighted. So I called it Vitamin Linda. several years ago, I outgrew that. This is 2016. I felt like that was my 20s. I'm blossoming into this woman, and what is it going to be? And somehow I came across the word Lila, which in Sanskrit means divine play. And all along my years, I've been known to be quite fun. And this really resonated.
Yeah,
And so
it's really fun.
Really fun. And helping people tap into, the divine play, which is all of our lives, and the ability to infuse your life with play and divine play and that connection to your own divine. And so the Lila Life Show will be interviews really with that spirit and talking to people when they felt that disconnect, how they reconnect. And so I feel really excited about that, and it will drop on October 7th, and it's going to come out on Mondays. I love Mondays so much. I'm going to get married on one. And I'm laughing, Amelia, because when you were saying something about being so funny, I had an experience this weekend where I heard many times over how funny I am, and I'm like one step away from doing stand-up classes. That's how fucking funny I feel.
I think you could just cross over that step and just go for it. What's the last step that you need to get across to get there?
I think I just need to sign up for not improv, stand-up. Like, I always was comfortable in improv because improv felt easy to me, but stand-up is like, material. But I'm going to do it. So stay tuned. But until then, the Lila Life Show.
Perfect. I can't wait to listen.
I want to hear about yours.
Yeah, so I will be launching a show very soon, also in October. It's going to be coming out October 4th. The Totally Stoked podcast, or Amelia Travis is Totally Stoked, which is going to be truth-telling, shame-busting, deep-diving conversations that still reveal the rise to thrive stories of healers, thought leaders, visionaries, entrepreneurs, spiritual warriors. I really want to have just incredibly honest conversations with people about how they got into this place of inspiration, service, connection, and activation in doing the things that they love and making a living doing them. For me, the evolution of stoked yogi as a concept, and then just the concept of living a totally stoked life, for me to be totally stoked means giving less fucks what people think and figuring out what actually makes you come alive, what makes you thrive, how you can cultivate your own authentic voice, how you can live by those principles of showing up, loving people, and telling the truth. So I'm really looking forward to rocking a no filters approach to sharing tools around personal growth, mindset, well-being, and giving listeners, actionable tools for how to build a more stoked life by being your raw, authentic self. These are buzzwords that happen a lot in the personal development community, like authenticity, vulnerability. And if you're, a fan of Glennon Doyle, Liz Gilbert, Brene Brown, you're seeing these things in action. I think one of the things that I have come to terms with over the last few years is that I have a call upon my life to create a ministry of spiritual healing. And that comes through being willing to share the whole truth. And that means going even deeper than I've gone before in witnessing and healing my own wounds. It means challenging other people to get even more honest about themselves, their story, to acknowledge their shadow, to acknowledge the contrast that really is what enables us to be able to operate in this super high vibe, light consciousness, all that new age shit, is like, it's available because you've seen the dark, right? So I want to hear about the dark. I want to hear about the stories, and I want to share them with you. So I'm excited to just speak to people who are doing this. We have some really great guests lined up. And the thread through all of them is people who are stepping outside of the boxes that society wants to put us in when it comes to entrepreneurship, spirituality, mindset, and to really just be able and willing to carve their own path. And so totally stoked. I'm totally stoked for it. And it's coming out October 4th. And you can actually go ahead and subscribe already on iTunes and Spotify, and look forward to season 1 dropping pretty soon.
Yay.
Yeah. And I look forward to having you as a guest, and
Likewise.
bringing the spirit of Lila life to Totally Stoked, and, you know, having maybe even a Rise to Thrive reunion. This show, you guys, I think it's especially potent that this is episode 33. That was Jesus's age during his last year upon the earth. And you know what? He died, but he also was resurrected. So we're closing on chapter 33, but leaving the non-closure possibility of resurrection, if that's what life spirals us back around to.
If you're scratching your head wondering, so is this over or there's another episode? Just stay subscribed.
Just don't hold your breath. Stay subscribed. We might be back. Yeah. But either way, come and connect with us.
Yeah, please be connected. That's one thing we both agree on, is how much we've loved and appreciated loyal fans and listeners, and we love you guys just as much as ever, and we feel so excited that we can continue the journey with you in a new way. And
we're getting a divorce, but we'll always be your mom and dad. Right? No, but seriously, you guys, like, we love you. You guys have made this show something so amazing and so incredible, and there's so much more to come, you know, together and separately. And we look forward to sharing that with you. And we hope that you will continue to support. And we hope that this inspires you to live in integrity and in alignment more in your own life, and to release the fear around letting go of something that just, it doesn't feel right. And being in that space of trust that if it is right, if it is aligned, it'll come back. You know what I mean? But you never know what blessings are there when you're willing to have the courage to let it go.
Knowing that you are so supported, and if there's any little ping of, oh shit, I gotta cut the ties here for whatever that is in your life, that you're beyond supported in that process.
So true. Do we have a book club book for this?
I could go back to Letting Go by Mr. David Hawkins.
Oh my God, such a good book. I don't even know if we featured that yet.
I don't know. I think that it's worth the feature right now. It's right where my eyes went to. And one of the things that he talks about that has helped me so much in my life is he has this whole spectrum of emotions, and really gets into the anatomy of the emotions. And the way he puts this emotional scale together, it helped me understand it's not about going from sad to happy. There's this whole scale of emotions. And if I can move up one little bump, let's say from grief to fear, which according to his emotional scale is one bump up, you know, from anger to pride, it's these baby steps amongst the emotional scale. And we as humans get to experience the full range of love to shame every day within our lifetime. And what a joy.
Hopefully of being shame back to love.
Yeah, shame back to love and love back to shame, the ping pong of emotions. So if you haven't checked it out, Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender, which when you asked Amelia what helped me, probably this in our process.
Mm-hmm.
So that is our book club.
Well, this has been a great joy, Linda. And I will always love you. Ooh.
The one last thing I want to say is, if our listeners felt like this series touched their lives, share it, because it's still going to be living.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen.
It's still there. Still share it. Redirect. Come connect with us on our individual shows. And if you just cannot stand the fact that the band is breaking up, revolt.
Let us know.
Make t-shirts. You know, protest. Let us know. We'll definitely be having each other guest on our respective shows. And, you know, one of the biggest lessons of healing that I'm learning is the commitment to non-closure. So allowing yourself to be in integrity, to follow your intuition, to release what doesn't feel aligned in this moment, but to trust that that the things that are perfect for you will always unfold. So knowing that, you know, you can always reopen a door. It's just a door. It's got a handle. Usually,
knock, knock.
To take it off.
Knock, knock.
All right, guys. We love you. Thank you for being Rise to Thrive listeners. We'll catch you on our other shows. And we love you guys forever.
Mwah, 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 mwah.
Keep rising.
Always thriving.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today on another episode of Rise to Thrive podcast. We are so stoked that you're here. If you loved today's episode, if it helped you, please share it with a friend, snap a screenshot, tag us on stories at Rise to Thrive podcast, or head to iTunes or Spotify and leave us an honest review. We love you guys. We appreciate you. And until next time, keep rising, keep thriving. See you next time.